Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is from the corner of your eye in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 11, Exam, Part 3. Naruto surveys the Grassnin before them, and everything pauses for a second. The enemy smirks. "You got rid of my snake quickly," she says. "Well done, Naruto." The blonde's face twists into a scowl. "That was you." His hands fly, flashing through a familiar set of hand signs. "Shadow Clone Jutsu. You won't get to do it again." Dozens of Narutos poof into existence, running at the Grassnin full tilt, and Sasuke feels the vice of terror wrapped around his heart ease a little. Yes. That's a good distraction, a good way to keep her busy while the four of them try to flee for their lives, get away, and maybe survive another day. He doesn't even care about passing the exam at this point. He just wants to live. "Naruto!" he yells, voice strained. He can't bring himself to look at the cloud of smoke that is her decimating the clones. Fortunately, the real Naruto hung back, and Sasuke leaps from his branch to Naruto's, landing with a stagger right next to him. The blonde automatically moves to stabilize him, putting on a hand on his back end. Wow, he reeks. And really is covered in slime. No, not the time. "Naruto, we need to run," he tells him. "She's way out of our league, we need to distract her as long as possible and get out of here." His teammate nods, pale and shaking. "Okay." Sasuke blinks. He hadn't really expected an easy agreement from Naruto, of all people. Before he can question it, though, someone lands behind him, and he whirls around. It's Sakura and the AIM Genin, tense and withdrawn faces. "If we can get down to the ground, I've got a plan," he says, and Team 7 exchanges glances. "Look, I don't want to die today, okay? So dash. Shadow Clone Jutsu." Naruto yells in Sasuke's ear, and another wave of clones rushes at the grass ninja. There's no time to waste, and nothing to lose. That won't work for too much longer. "Down," Sasuke says, and they leap together, landing neatly on the forest floor. "We just need to delay her as long as possible," the AIM Genin says, flipping through an unfamiliar pattern of seals, and all around them, shinobi begin rising from the earth. Copies of their new ally, as well as copies of the three of them. It's incredibly eerie. He turns to Naruto. "Make 4 clones and disguise them as us, in the bushes, and then add as many clones as you can to my illusions." Sasuke should be in charge. Taking control. He is the de facto leader of Team 7, but he's shaking too much. He hasn't felt bloodlust like this since. He thinks he's going to vomit. Sakura leans into him, grounding him, as they watch Naruto steel himself. He inhales, exhales, Shadow Clone Jutsu, the blonde murmurs, and the effect is instantaneous. At least 100 Narutos populate the clearing, and as they watch, a ripple passes through them as most of them henge. It's staggering. Sasuke had no idea Naruto had that much chakra. The Uzumaki looks a little worse for the wear, pale with a sheen of sweat covering his skin, but he gives them a tired grin. "Let's go." They move. The entire production only took a minute, but it's a minute they didn't really have to spare, and Sasuke is beyond terrified that Grassnin will see right through it. Or, worse, was watching and is going to get the drop on them any moment. She's so above their power level it's not even funny, and getting into an actual entanglement with her will be the death of all of them. As the three jump from branch to branch, though, Sasuke starts to think they might actually make it. 10 minutes pass of naught but their hard breathing as they go, and there's no sign of her. Naruto hasn't said anything, either, and wouldn't he know if all of his clones were destroyed? They might do this. Survive this. While Sasuke is starting to feel tired and Sakura is near shaking from the exertion, Naruto is looking a bit better. In fact, he grins at the AIM Genin, seemingly relaxed. "Good plan, jumpsuit." He crows, clearly not afraid of being heard. "She's still fighting them right now." Oh, thank God." The AIM Genin scowls, though. "My name is Oboro," he says. "Not jumpsuit." After a moment, though, he begrudgingly adds a thanks. Sakura tiredly smiles, leaping to the next branch alongside Sasuke. What was that jutsu you used back there? She asks quietly. I haven't seen any illusions like that before. Oboro puffs up a little. I bet. It's actually dash. Quiet, Sasuke hisses, coming to a stop, and the other three shut up. They all pause for a moment, and the Uchiha stretches out every single one of his senses, desperately trying to find a source for the unsettling feeling burrowing up from his core. Naruto, he says slowly, as hushed as possible. Are you sure that dash? He doesn't get a chance to finish. Sasuke moves, hurtling himself away from his branch to another with every ounce of speed in his body. He barely makes it, 4 shuriken embedding themselves in the spot he just vacated. There's a laugh and the 4 of them look up, terrified, to see the grass ninja standing on a giant fucking snake. Oboro curses. My, what clever children, she says, and Sasuke can't move. It's not like before, with the killing intent that felt as though it was flooding every inch of him. This is just sheer, unadulterated terror. This ninja had realized none of the many copies they had left behind were real. She had slipped by all of the clones while tricking Naruto into thinking the plan was working, probably via her own clone. She had snuck up on them while riding a giant snake, and now had them exhausted and cornered. They were going to die. This was your plan. She continues, turning slightly to face Oboro. A pity. It's a movement so fast even Sasuke's Sharingan can barely see it. Her tongue whips out, wrapping itself around Oboro's neck and yanks. It's barely a blink. Barely a blink, and a crack, and he's gone. Sakura gasps, horrified, as the woman retracts her tongue, Oboro's body crumbling, face locked in an expression of horrified shock. Sakura catches him. Sasuke can't stop staring. The last time he saw someone look like that. The woman laughs. A pity, she says again, and licks her lips. If only he hadn't been with you. Naruto is shaking. His hands curled into fists by his side, every part of him steel and tense, and he whirls, his eyes teary and red as he snarls, animalistic and feral. I'll kill you. He screams. I'll kill you. He launches himself at the grass nin. Sasuke's only a beat behind him. The Uchiha has never seen Naruto strong like this before, it's almost frightening. He punches the snake, and it seems to hurt it, to actually stop it, but Sasuke drives that thought from his mind. He blocks out Naruto taking on the snake, and Sakura rising to her feet, wiping at her tear-filled eyes and joining in. He blocks it all out. It's just him and her. He lunges forward and she pulls back. She lashes out with her tongue and he rolls to the underside of the branch. It's a deadly game, a deadly dance, and it's terrifying. They bandy back and forth fireballs and he tries to trap her with ninja wire but can't, his hands shaking too badly to properly direct it. Sasuke only really acknowledges the disappearance of the snake, a summons, when Naruto leaps over him, launching his whole orange self at the grass nin with a snarl. Don't touch him! Naruto yells, and the woman laughs, easily dodging him. I didn't expect to see you here, she says, and Sasuke charges, hands flying through the seals for a fireball but he has nothing. There's only the barest vestiges of chakra to draw upon, and it's not enough. The grass nin takes advantage of his distraction. She flings Naruto away from her, pinning him swiftly to the closest tree trunk with 3 quick kunai. Before he can do more than snarl at her, she slams her hand into his stomach and he slumps, going terrifyingly still. Sasuke falls to his knees. The woman turns on the branch, licking her lips, and slowly, achingly slowly, begins to walk towards Sasuke. He can do nothing. Absolutely nothing. His legs are like lead beneath him, his breath is coming so fast he's on the verge of hyperventilating, and he's almost out of chakra. Lose any more, and he's dead. Please, he begs, one hand slowly, shakily moving to the pouch on his hip. He doesn't know if it will do anything, it almost feels like this is a game to her, that she's hunting them for sport, but if giving her the scroll spares them, he'll do it in a heartbeat. He doesn't get the chance. Don't touch him! Sakura screeches with all the Valkyric fury of a 12-year-old girl. Sasuke barely registers her voice before her fist slams into the grass nin's face. The woman staggers, taking a few steps back, and Sakura takes the opportunity to get between the two of them. Leg back, poised to leap, kunao in her hands and low to the ground, she's ready. I won't let you touch him, you murderer. The woman laughs, straightening up and locking a spot of blood off the corner of her mouth. Silly little girl, she says. All ninja kill. Then I'll kill you. Sakura spits, and she hurtles herself forward. It's too fast for Sasuke to see. Sakura throws a punch at the woman's stomach, but she dodges easily and moves, and the girl cries out, a fresh line of blood slicing down her chest, through her chest, and fuck, Sasuke can't tell how deep it is. Foolish, the woman says, and then she throws her. Not hard. She grabs Sakura by the arm and flings her, just hard enough to push her away from the branch, but not hard enough so she can grab another. The perfect amount so she falls right into a gap. Sakura screams, falling and reaching out for something, anything, but there's naught but air. She disappears into the darkness below, and a moment later, her scream cuts off. It's silent. And Sasuke is alone with her. Well, that was a fun game, the woman says, walking closer once more. She's been toying with them the whole time, Sasuke realizes. She could have taken them down at any point. Who are you? He croaks. What do you want? My name is Orochimaru, she says, crouching in front of him and gently stroking his cheek. Sasuke's skin crawls, and he tries to pull away, but she grabs his chin and holds fast. When you want more power, Sasuke, come to me. It will be yours. And then she bites him. There's a fire burning in his neck, rippling through his veins, infecting the rest of him, and he screams, feeling clutching at the wound as his vision flickers. Before going peacefully, mercifully black. Chapter 12, Sakura Interlude, 1. She hurts. It's the first thing Sakura is aware of, the pain. It radiates through her entire body, like Naruto ran her over with an army of shadow clones. Especially her arm, which she's lying on. She's never, ever felt like this before. No matter how rough a spar was at the academy, not even when Kakashi nearly murdered them with his terrifying dogs, she's never felt like this before. What happened? Groggily, she opens her eyes. They don't hurt, at least, even if they feel almost plastered shut. Her vision swims dizzily for a moment before snapping into focus. She sees trees. Trees. Trees in darkness, night, clearly. Trees. The Chunin exam. Sakura sits up and immediately bites her lip so hard it bleeds to try to muffle her cry of pain. Her whole body hurts like hell, yes, but her arm. Tears well up in her eyes as she looks at her left arm hanging limply by her side. It had been lying underneath her, wrenched around, and she wonders if she had instinctively been trying to cushion her fall, in those last few moments of falling. Maybe it worked. Sakura can't tell. What she can tell, though, is that her arm is dislocated. Possibly broken. Tears roll down her cheek, and she can't help it. The girl lets out a half-choked sob. It's dead silent, and God, she's terrified that she's going to climb up the trees and find someone well and truly dead. The nice aim boy, Oboro, is fucking dead and her team was attacked by a fucking Sunin. The moment she saw that snake summon, she knew. After Zabuza, her newly formed library habit, thank you, Sasuke, had brought her to the bingo books, and she did her best to memorize the ones that might come up. Orochimaru had been Konohan, once. She remembered him. And he had come after them. He had come after them and he had toyed with them and... The girl leans over, carefully trying to not jostle her arm as she hangs her head between her legs and tries to breathe. Breathe, Sakura, breathe. What does she need to do? What would Sasuke do? No, she can't think about Sasuke. She left him alone with that monster. What would Naruto do? He was so still and silent, and she thinks of the way Oboro's neck just snapped and... What would Kakashi do? She's gonna hug him so hard when she sees him and then hit him for putting this dumb idea in the boys' heads. It's his fault they're in this situation. No, she can't picture what anyone else would do. It's impossible and makes her heart hurt because all she wants to do is hug them all and never ever go on another mission again. Ever. She'll do D-ranks for the rest of her life if everyone comes out okay from this. Okay. 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 Step 1, arm. Deal with arm. She's read medical texts, she knows anatomy, she, sort of thinks she knows what to do here. Sakura needs to pop it back into place, probably bite something so she doesn't chew off her own tongue, or was that just a myth? God, she can't remember, and then probably make some sort of splint if it seems broken. The genin is no medic, and she can feel the deep-seated terror set in every corner of her bones at the sheer silence surrounding her. It's terrifying. She needs to do this and get it over with and see how her teammates are. She needs to. She can do this. She has no other choice. It's funny how a simple event can turn your whole world upside down, Sakura thinks. It's not being put on a team with Naruto and Sasuke, though, honestly, she's pretty sure her patience is getting stretched beyond belief with this kind of dynamic. No, it's a simple act. Don't you have any books to read, Sakura? Sasuke asks, and things shift, just a little. She's long resigned herself to never impressing him via her physical prowess, she's just not that strong, no matter how hard she tries, but this she can do this. Sakura is good at reading, and Sasuke seems a little happier in the morning when she's got a book in hand. Maybe happy is a bit much, but he does frown less. Maybe she'll never be a rival like how Naruto is, never be someone that throws herself at Sasuke in a fight, never has quite the same dynamic as the two of them, but she's eager to be useful. She's eager to show Sasuke that she'll listen, that she'll learn, and so she does. The genin becomes a frequent visitor at the library, and reads a vast variety, particularly now that she has access to more books as a shinobi. She needs to learn what she's going to do. There's so many different things, and a lot are less physical, thank goodness. Elemental ninjutsu, genjutsu, medical ninjutsu, fuinjutsu. The list goes on, and Sakura doesn't even know where to begin. True, she's only a genin, but she feels like, with these sort of teammates, she might get a little left behind. She doesn't want that. The more time goes on, the more terror Sakura feels. Even when she screams, muffled by the kunao in her teeth, shoving her left arm back in its socket, there's not a peep. She weeps softly, trying to stay as quiet as possible, as she breaks branches off the closest tree, bandaging them around her arm and then ripping off part of her dress to create a makeshift sling. Not a single soul even breathes. They might just be unconscious, she mumbles to herself, bracing her good arm against a trunk to help her struggle to her feet. She can't quite believe it. Just get up there, Sakura. You can do it. She's shaking, she realizes, trembling with both cold and terror and nausea curling in her gut. Nope, that's bile climbing up her throat, and she leans over to throw up. It's not a pretty sight, and she barely swallows down another go of it. No. No, don't. It's as good as incentive as any to finally climb the trees. Sakura mentally thanks Kakashi-sensei for teaching them how to do this. It takes so much effort, one foot in front of the other, but she wouldn't be able to do it with her hands. That's how she realizes she's bleeding, though. Oh, she says, softly, looking down to where there's a ragged line cut down her front, starting to slowly bleed again. It scabbed over, it seemed, or dried, or something. How long was she out? But now that she's moving again, it's open. Bleeding sluggishly. Well, she doesn't have the chakra to stop and deal with it now. She has to keep climbing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, Sakura counts, focusing on something, anything. Anything than the silence coming from above, anything but the pain echoing through her body, especially her arm, with every step she takes, anything but the slow trickle of blood staining her dress and starting to slowly drip, drip, drip. She thinks she might be leaving a trail. She thinks she doesn't care. It feels like it's forever until she hits a solid branch and carefully steps onto it, immediately sagging against the tree trunk behind her. Sakura has chakra, she hadn't really used any before this, and she's so glad for that, but she's so achingly tired she still worries she'll slip and fall, that she won't be able to find them, that she. No, fuck, no. Sakura slaps herself with her good hand, shaking herself into awakeness, into clarity. No, she can do this. Opening her eyes, when had she closed them? The genin looks around, squinting into the darkness to see if she can find her team. Naruto as Sakura swallows sharply. He's one branch over, hanging from the tree trunk by a kunao. Sasuke as she shakes, clutching at her ruined dress with her free hand. He's lying on that same branch, not making a single movement. From this far, she can't tell if either are breathing. She lets out a choked sob, and leaps. Wave only encourages her, and reaffirms her thoughts. Sasuke and Naruto had been useful. They had fought. Naruto was the absolute dead last in the class and he had done so much more than her. Sakura had done nothing. Sakura had been nothing. Kakashi-sensei, she asks one morning, when the boys are racing ahead to the mission's desk, Naruto racing to get there and Sasuke doing his usual, "I'm not racing you Naruto but like hell you'll beat me," while she and their teacher hang behind. "Can you help me figure out my ninjutsu affinity?" He gazes down at her with his one eye that sees far more than she ever could, unreadable as ever, and the girl steels herself before she continues. I want to learn some, but I don't know what would be the easiest for me, so I dash. She's interrupted as a gloved hand shoves a piece of paper in her hand, and comes to a stop. Kakashi-sensei is offering her the small square, and his eye crinkles up in a smile. "Ma, it's always good to see my cute little students bettering themselves. Do you know what this is?" She nods eagerly, taking the paper from him and starting to walk again. Sakura can channel chakra into a piece of paper and walk at the same time, so she does, and it turns into dirt, crumbling away. She blinks once, twice, and then beams up at her teacher. "Earth, right?" He laughs a little, reaching out to ruffle her hair. Yes, Earth. "Come on, or we'll get left behind," he says, and then he disappears from her side in a swirl of leaves and smoke. Cursing quietly in her head, Sakura starts to run. Hey, wait for me." Naruto is the closest, but she stops right before she touches him. "Come on, Sakura," she thinks. "Naruto would have done so much more for you by this point." He would. Unreliable, dumb, idiotic as he could be, he was the most selfless of them all, and it's with that in mind that she reaches out, brushing past his hair to gently place her fingers on the side of his neck. For one heartbreaking moment, she feels nothing. She feels absolutely nothing and her heart climbs up in her throat, beating so loud as if to beat for him too, and God, she should have been so much nicer to him, but now he's gone and she can't even remember what the last thing she said to him was. And there's a heartbeat under her fingers. She stares, wide-eyed, but she can feel the faint twitch underneath her fingers. The slight pulsing of some vein, some artery, whatever, but it's there and it's real and Naruto's alive. Sakura hugs him. He's unconscious and hanging from a kunao and pretty slimy, but she's so relieved she hugs him, and then gingerly pulls out the kunao, catching him before he can fall and then laying him down on the branch. He looks asleep. Peaceful. Not like he had just attacked a missing nin and nearly gotten killed in turn, and it's such a relief she could cry. But she can't. Not yet. Still, Naruto being alive has bolstered her, and though she takes a deep breath to steady herself, she's not shaking as she walks across the branch towards Sasuke. He's crumpled on the branch, hand clutched at his neck, and she's so scared of what she'll see underneath it. A wound? Sakura crouches next to him, and pries his hand away. No, it's not a wound. It's a seal, she realizes, something she only knows from her time in the library, but that can't be a concern right now. Living is the concern, and she can figure out everything else from there. She presses her fingers to his neck, and this time, she has the mind to be patient. Wait a few seconds, and then the pulse seems to come to life. Thank God, they're both alive. Naruto's alive. Sasuke's alive. All three of them are alive. Sakura bends over her teammate and weeps. She studies as much as she can, she reads, she devours. When she's not training with her team, not taking missions, she reads. It's not like she has any social life to speak of. That realization actually hurts. Ino had been the main person she spoke with when she had been in the academy, even with all their bickering, and now they're on separate teams and she can only see Ino if one of them seeks the other out, which neither will do, of course. They're rivals. They fight. But Sasuke and Naruto are rivals, and they see each other every day. It's a bit of a sobering thought. Naruto doesn't have any friends, she knows this. Neither does Sasuke. Sasuke doesn't because he's Sasuke, because all he does is train and get stronger, and that's really cool, but that means that she can't hang out with him. She's been rebuffed since day one, and even though she'll keep trying because she really wants to, it means she doesn't expect an answer in the positive anytime soon. Naruto, though. Naruto likes her. Why wouldn't he? She's the best girl in the whole year. So maybe. Ugh. Even if he's annoying, maybe. She crinkles her nose at the thought, but waits until Sasuke's left after training one day. She doesn't want him to get the wrong idea, before approaching her other teammate. Hey, Naruto. Want to go shopping? Sakura carries them down to the ground, one by one. She'd rather bring them down, first, leaving them up in the trees is too precarious, and she's so worried. And she doesn't want to leave them alone. After a long moment of hesitation, she collects Obaro's body, too. She can't leave him lying there. She's tired, and she can feel that ache in every part of her bones, and God, is it hard to carry people with just one arm, but she still places them under the roots of a tree, big enough to allow for shelter. Sakura carefully rummages through Sasuke's pack, not even blushing because of the circumstances, and pulls out some sweat towels she knew he had stashed in here. She had seen him use them and wow. She wets them carefully with some of their precious water, folding them up to lay them on both of her boys' heads, and watches them for a moment. Sasuke is clearly having a nightmare of some sort. She wonders if it's related to the seal. He looks so distressed, so upset, that all she wants to do is reach out and wipe it all away, but she can't. Naruto. Naruto looks better, but now that he's lying like this, she can see his knit brow, that something is bothering him as well. He's not just sleeping peacefully. Oboro, she doesn't look at him, tucked away in the corner. She can't. She watches them for a little bit, catching her breath, before she forces herself to stand. First, she needs to wrap up her side. She has no idea how bad it is, just that it's bleeding sluggishly, and when she pulls off her dress the scabbing rips even more, and she has to bite back a cry. Sasuke had packed bandages, thank God, and she has to pull off even her bra to wrap her whole front. It's long and bleeding and that can't be good, but it's not as though she can do anything else for it at the moment. Right now, Sakura needs to set some traps. Naruto, if you don't ask me out ever again, we can be friends. I won't ever say yes and be your girlfriend, she tells him, and he agrees. He agrees. We'll be friends. Really? She rolls her eyes. Yes, dummy. Okay. Sakura immediately regrets it when she's dragged off to go to Ichiraku. No, I said shopping. Shopping. To greet a bemused Iruka, perched at one of the stools. Iruka-sensei, Iruka-sensei. Naruto yells, releasing her hand to lunge at their old teacher, almost knocking him off the stool but not quite. He had braced for it. Guess what? Me and Sakura are friends now. Iruka laughs a little, and smiles at him, before smile at her, warm and open and genuine in a way that she hadn't seen from the teacher before. It's not that he hadn't been warm and nice with her before, but this was different. Is that so, Sakura? He asks, and she blushes a little, before nodding. Yeah. He's not so bad. Naruto immediately protests that, but Iruka directs him away from arguing with her, steering him towards telling him about his week, which he eagerly does. He talks about the most banal things, and Sakura blows on her noodles and eats, watching. It's like her and her parents, but not. The blonde seems to relish every single word Iruka-sensei says, brightening at every piece of attention, and Sakura wonders, when was the last time she appreciated her parents like that? When was the last time she had hugged her mom, eagerly told her dad all about her day, written a letter to her aunts? For someone who's legally an adult, she has a lot of growing up to do, doesn't she? By the time she finishes the traps, it's daybreak. Sakura has no true way of knowing how long she had been unconscious, before, but it had apparently been a decent chunk of time. That's worrisome. She's only barely settled herself down when out comes a squirrel from the bushes, and she stops it. Prevents it from going into a trap, and maybe that was too much of a giveaway, because out of the bushes come 3 ninja. Sound ninja, and they skirt the trap as easy as breathing. I'm going to kill the girl, and then I'm going to kill this Sasuke guy, one of them says, and Sakura stops breathing. They work for Orochimaru, work for that snake Sunin, and they're part of the reason that Oboro is dead. They're part of the reason that Naruto and Sasuke are unconscious behind her, and she grabs a kunai with her free hand, every part of her shaking. The one covered in bandages laughs. Don't bother with the second trap, he says. We've been watching you the whole time. She's going to die here, Sakura realizes. She only has one arm, and she hurts and she's bleeding still. Did they watch her change? She's going to vomit, but still, she braces herself. Maybe she's going to die here. Maybe there's nothing she can do about it, and tears well up a little in her eyes. But she'll try to take down at least one of them with her, and hopefully she can stall long enough so her teammates can wake up and save themselves. They rush at her, and she inhales. Mom, Dad, if we get out of this, I'm going to give you such a big hug when I get home. She tightens her grip on her kunai. Ino, I wish we were best friends again. I wish we weren't so stupid. She exhales. Naruto, Sasuke. I won't let you down. And then someone punches the female ninja in the stomach. The new ninja moves, chakra visible around their fists as they punch her a few more times and she crumples to the ground, before they back up swiftly, getting between Sakura and the other 2 ninjas as they grind to a halt. It's a surprise attack, and wow, it's a really good one. What the hell, I'm going to kill you, one asks. Who are you? I'm Hyuga Hinata, says Hinata, standing in front of Sakura, a squirrel perched on her shoulder. I won't let you hurt them. Chapter 13, Sakura Interlude, 2. Sakura can't even breathe. She can't wrap her head around this. What are you doing here, she asks, a half-crazed laugh curling in the back of her throat, but she swallows it. Hinata doesn't turn to face her, keeping her eyes on the enemy ninja even as she sets the squirrel down on the ground. The 2 boys on the team are hanging back, and the girl is coughing, gingerly shoving herself to her feet. There was an exploding tag on the squirrel. So I investigated. Oh. That explained a lot, and also made Sakura feel a little better. She hadn't given them away by driving the squirrel away from a trap, but that also didn't. But you're the enemy, she protests. For a moment, Sakura doesn't think the girl will answer. They probably shouldn't be talking like this, probably shouldn't be given the bandaged boy time to reassess, re-evaluate, but she can't help it. Wouldn't you help me, Sakura, she asks, and it's like a punch to the gut. Yes, she says immediately, ashamed of herself for even asking that, now, her good hand curling around her kunai. I would. Hinata nods, simple as that. The bandaged one rolls his eyes. Well, isn't this a touching display of Konoha solidarity, he snarks, tossing his scroll to the other male. Zaku, you take care of Sasuke. Zaku. That's the one with the medal on his face, Sakura files away. I'll take care of them. Dosuo, let me handle this bitch, the girl says, snarling in Hinata's direction. She looks pissed, and Sakura doesn't blame her, that looked like it hurt. No, says the one named Dosuo, the leader. Stay back, kin. And then he takes off. He's not terrifyingly fast, but he's still far faster than Sakura can move, and her shoulders tense up. Hinata cannot dodge, not unless she wants to leave Sakura and her team exposed, and the pink-haired girl doesn't think she'll move. Terrified, Sakura flings her kunai, but Dosuo just dodges it easily. Hinata doesn't even move. She stands there, ready to fight, ready to take him on, but doesn't move forward, doesn't push to engage, and Sakura can't breathe, can't do anything, is completely useless. Something hurtles into Dosuo from the side. It's a tornado, a sideways tornado, hurtling into the sound genin and sending him flying, and Sakura has only a moment to think, holy shit, I want to learn that jutsu, when the whirling stops, and it's Kiba, standing above Dosu and panting heavily. That. She had no idea Kiba could do that. Dosu is smashed in a crater in the ground, and definitely has at least one broken rib, from how hard that impact was. This is crazy. Zuko swears. Shit, she's got teammates, he says, and then the clearing explodes into movement. Shino shoots from the trees, appearing out of nowhere just as fast as Kiba had, leaping straight for Zuko and nimbly dodging a spout of air he shoots from his arms. Hinata lunges forward, striking at the girl, Kin, with an open palm and slipping to the side to avoid a senbon, which comes to a halt barely a foot in front of Sakura. Sakura has no idea where to look. Zuko and Shino seem evenly matched. Hinata looks like she'll be winning, though, and Kiba. Kiba's standing guard over Dosu, but he's not looking at him, rather, his teammates. Sakura doesn't blame him. She remembers Wave, and she deeply understands that it's so hard to stay and not fight when everyone else is, even when that's the tactical decision, but Dosu is moving. Kiba, she screams, grabbing another kunai from her pouch, but it's too late. Dosu flings his arm out, connecting with Kiba's leg, and she has no idea what kind of attack it is, but Kiba collapses. The thought of another Oboro has her up and running before she's even consciously realized it. Sakura flings her kunai at Dosu, embedding it in his shoulder as he rises, and bodily shoves her entire self into him, knocking him back down before he's even fully gotten back up. She cries out in pain, her arm on fire, every one of her muscles screaming at her to stop, but Sakura pushes past it, desperately forcing herself up and off the other. She desperately doesn't want him to hit her with whatever he got Kiba with. It even sent Akamaru down, too, sent the puppy twitching to the ground, and she's so scared she'll get the same. He doesn't need to. Something locks in her hair, yanking and pulling. Tears spring to her eyes as she struggles, but she's dragged up into a sitting position and freezes, as a kunai hovers right in front of her throat. Stop moving, or the girl gets it. Dosu yells from behind her, and Shino and Hinata. Stop moving. Hinata jumps back first, putting some distance in between her and Kin, and even from here, Sakura can see the panic in her vision, the ways her eyes dart between Sakura and Kiba, lying unconscious but breathing, definitely breathing, at her feet. Shino stays exactly where he is. Sakura can't see the ninja's face behind her, but he yanks on her hair again and she gasps in pain. Good, just like that, he says. He sounds delighted with himself. Drop your weapons. Neither of them move, and Dosu gives another yank to her hair, enjoying her pain. Drop them, or the girl dies. Shino is the one to speak. Sakura can't remember the last time she heard him say something out loud. I can move faster than you, he says, and the girl feels terror settling in her bones. Yes, Shino is fast. She saw that. But from behind Shino, out of his peripheral vision, Zuko aims both arms at Shino and blows. Well, that's what's supposed to happen. Instead, Zuko's arms blow up. She can see the crackle of chakra around his arms as the sound Genin yells in pain. But that's where she stops paying attention to him, because she sees her chance. Dosu gasps at the sight of his teammate, and his hand shifts, just a little upwards, and it's enough. Sakura bites him. He yelps and she doesn't let go, doesn't release her teeth even though she can taste the coppery sting of blood in her mouth, and it's disgusting. Her free hand palms a kunai from her pouch and reaches up and slices through her hair. She doesn't give herself a second to mourn. Not a single second to think about it. Shino is there in a matter of seconds, scooping up Kiba, and she drops the kunai, grabbing Akamaru with her free hand and bolting with him. Zuko is collapsed to the ground, panting and struggling for air. Hinata has Kin pinned to the ground, kunai to her neck and other hand grabbing Kin's arm. No jutsus for her. Stop, Hinata says, as Shino lays Kiba gently on the ground and Sakura holds Akamaru cradled to her chest. If you move, I'll kill her. There's terror in Kin's face, and Sakura feels sympathetic, remembering her fear, but she does nothing. Hinata won't kill her, she won't, but they don't know that. Dosu, though? Dosu just laughs, tilting his head to the side and looking like some sort of bandaged, deranged puppet. He's injured, bleeding from the arm and breathing heavily and painfully, but if all he has to do is touch one of them to knock them out, the three of them may still have a fight on their hands. Go ahead, he says, and Sakura stops breathing. Kill her, for all I care. She means nothing to me. Sakura can't help herself. But she's your teammate. How can he say that? He laughs again. You're so naive. What dash? Two now embed themselves in the ground in front of him, and he stops talking. They all do, because none of them threw those. Out of the trees come two genin, and Sakura's brain just stops. They're wearing yellow jumpsuits just like Oboro. Their words only confirm her frantically racing thoughts. Sorry to bust in on your meeting, one of them says, glancing around. But we're looking for our third teammate. The second one, slightly shorter, glances over to meet Sakura's eyes. He was following your team. Any idea what happened to him? She wonders, for one hysterical moment, what their relationship is. Sakura would jump into a bunch of enemies for Sasuke, or for Naruto. She knows she would, now, she knows she would, she didn't before. Any member of Team 8 would. The Sound Team wouldn't. But how does she even begin to explain what happened? She stumbles over her words, gently petting Akamaru. He's comforting. Shino and Hinata trade confused glances, and Sakura tries to steel herself, tries to say it. But Dosu laughs again, and it's a chilling sound. You killed him, didn't you? Sakura blanches, even as the aim genin start. And no. Your boss killed him. He smiles behind his bandages, evidenced only by the crinkling of his eye. It's something familiar to see on Kakashi, it's terrifying to see on him. Then why do you have his body in your hideout? She bursts into tears, trembling and shaking and half burying her face in Akamaru's fur. I see couldn't he leave him? Sakura wails, and the entire clearing stares at her. I couldn't. Oboro tried to help us escape from Orochimaru, and then the snake K killed him, snapped his neck and dash. She can't finish, desperately sucking in air. He's really dead, whispers the shorter aim genin, and Sakura nods miserably. Orochimaru, you mean the Sunin? Asks the other one, horrified, and even though she can see the growing disbelief on Hinata and Shino's faces, Sakura nods again. And you dash, the shorter one growls, whipping around to glare at Dosu, who takes a step back. You work for him. Dosu smirks. He's cocky even though he's the last one of his team, and Sakura wants to reach out and smack that sorry face of his, but she just cries. Sakura, says Shino from right next to her. What's that? There's a purple chakra rising from the tree where she left her teammates and Oboro. Slowly, everyone turns to look at once. Sasuke pushes himself up from the ground, and for one sheer moment, all Sakura can feel is relief. Sasuke, she cries, your dash. And then it hits her. It's the teeming essence of wrong, of corruption, of Orochimaru that's surrounding Sasuke and choking the air around them. Chakra usually isn't visible, not like this, but it whips and spirals around him, a sickening purple color that seems to coat every inch of his body. As he steps into view, however, steps out of the shade, she realizes that's not the case. There are little tattooed flames covering his body. They spread down his left arm and across the left side of his face, and Sakura knows with terrifying, heartbreaking clarity that they must come from the seal. No wonder they feel of corruption and of the Sunin. Whatever this is, whatever's infected Sasuke, it's from him. Sasuke takes another step forward, and his red, Sharingan eyes meet hers. She quakes. She's never been scared of Sasuke, not ever, but she finds herself shaking, so scared of what he's going to do. This isn't him. This isn't her teammate, this isn't the boy she's come to know as her friend, and it's both heart-wrenching and the most frightening thing she's ever seen. Sakura, he says, and he doesn't look away. Neither does she. Who did this to you? Chapter 14, Exam, Part 4. He is alone. It's the first thing Sasuke's aware of. There's no one else around, nor nothing else around, but a myriad of colors that stretch above him, below him, around him. It makes no sense. He is on nothing, nothing at all, and yet he is standing. The Uchiha takes a step forward, glancing around, and that's when he sees him. It's him, from long ago. The young him is crying, fiercely crying, and Sasuke feels no need to wipe his tears. He feels the need to shake him, to tell him to stop crying because crying solves nothing, it does nothing, but the other boy speaks first. Father and mother didn't need to die. And suddenly, he's back in his home. The bodies of his parents lay before him, fallen over each other from where they were kneeling. Why? Why were they kneeling? But everything has a sheen of fakeness to it. It's like one of his nightmares, when he keenly realizes it's a nightmare, and knows it's not the truth. But the younger him keeps talking, and the real Sasuke trembles. Everyone was killed, the younger boy says, and the older Sasuke can't see his eyes anymore, can't see his gaze, as he hunches forward, hiding in the shadow of his hair. I had no power, so the clan vanished. This is an illusion, Sasuke thinks. It's not a nightmare. It feels too vivid to be that, the other Sasuke, but everything else is so fake it must be an illusion. But not a genjutsu? After all, the young boy says, clutching at his head, without power. I can't do anything. Because I had no power, everyone was killed. No, he says, and he looks up, and the real Sasuke trembles. You killed them. You only watched. If I had power. And the boy shifts, transforms, and it's Itachi, and he's reaching out for him, and if only I had the power. Sasuke wakes up. There's no pain. He feels strong. Powerful. As if he could take on the world and leave it as nothing but ashes behind him. It's a good feeling. Naruto is lying next to him. He remembers how Orochimaru had pinned him to the tree, had done something, so he reaches out, pressing his fingers to Naruto's throat to make sure he's alive, and he does. Thump, thump, thump goes his heart, and he breathes, and Sasuke pushes himself to his feet. There are others here. Team 8 is here. Hinata pins down a Sound Genin. Shino holds Kiba. One Sound Genin lies on the ground, stunned and groaning. One Sound Genin stands, a half-crazed grin seemingly on his face beneath his bandages. Two Aim Genin, in the same uniform as Oboro, stand in the center. And Sakura. Sakura is hurt. One arm wrapped up, as if broken, hanging from a strip of cloth around her neck, a blood stain on her front, her hair chopped short, Akamaru clutched to her with her free arm and tears on her face. Sakura looks beaten up and terrified. She meets his eyes. Sakura, he says, slowly but surely, feeling the power swirl in and around him. Who did this to you? Who is it? Sasuke, she says, and she shakes. Your body. He has his Sharingan activated, he realizes, though he doesn't recall activating it, but that's not the concern here. Sasuke looks down, and there are flames trailing up his arms. Not real ones, but tattoos? That should be alarming. He doesn't know where this power is coming from, he doesn't know why these marks are on his arms, and the Sharingan activated without his conscious thought. Sasuke isn't alarmed. Don't worry, he says. He understands, now, what the woman had been saying. She had given him power. The power that flows freely within him, and she can give him more, if that is what he desires? Interesting. He smirks. Sakura, get behind me. Uncertainly, she glances at Shino, and then Hinata, but does as he says. Slowly, but surely, shuffles towards him, step by step by step. She's slow, but that's something Sasuke has long learned about her. He has all the time in the world. None of them can stand up to him here. The moment she's close enough, he grabs her. Not hard, but not gentle either, and she looks terrified. She shouldn't be looking at him that way, whispers part of his mind, but he ignores it, squashes it back down and refuses to think about it. Who knows? Maybe she should. Who did this to you, Sakura? He says, and it's not a question. It's a demand, and her eyes skitter away from him. From the corner of his eye, he can see Team 8 readying themselves for something, but he pays them no mind. He can take them. She's terrified, trembling beneath his fingers. Orochimaru, Sakura whispers, and Sasuke absorbs that. The blood on her front must have been from when she cut her. The broken arm from when she fell. But her hair. Was she the only one? He presses, and Sakura's eyes flicker. Flicker in one specific ninja's direction. Sasuke lets go and he's gone. This power is so much. He flies across the clearing in an instant, smashing his leg into the Sound Genin's side and sending him into the closest tree. The Genin cries out, falling helplessly onto the ground, and it's clear he's broken something. Sasuke grins, putting his foot on the other ninja's chest. Don't touch her, he breathes. Something's going on behind him, but he ignores it. He cares little for the antics of teammate. They're nothing to him, nothing but dust and ashes and vermin. The Genin's eyes are wide and frightened, and Sasuke relishes in this. He brought him down. He made this Genin feel as though there was no way out, no possible way to win. Please, he begs, and oh he begs. It's delicious. It's beautiful. Sasuke presses down harder with his foot, and the Genin gasps. Please. I'll give you my scroll, just, let us go, please. Sasuke stops. Considers this for a moment. Give me the scroll. The Genin reaches into his pouch, and Sasuke watches him closely. He pulls out naught but a scroll, and the Uchiha relaxes, reaching down to take it. It's an earth scroll. Exactly what they need. He smirks. This is exactly what we need, he says, and hope, desperate, dogged hope flickers across the Sound Shinobi's face. Too bad it doesn't matter. Sasuke grinds down with his foot, digging into the Genin's ribs, and he screams in pain. Sasuke dash. There's no one but the two of them, no one but Sasuke, the one who is feared, who is a threat, who has so much power he can dispose of this Genin with barely a thought. Sasuke. If this is what true power is, he needs it. Craves it. This is the way to defeat Itachi, he knows, and he grinds down even harder. Any more, and he'll kill him, Sasuke thinks. Snap the remaining rib bones and drive his foot straight through his heart. It's what he deserves. It's what he should do. He hurt Sakura, and that meant Sasuke should. The fist comes out of nowhere. 1 second, it's him and the Genin and power and fear and everything he'd ever wanted, and the next, a fist is slamming into his cheek, sending him flying off the Sound Genin. Sasuke twists around in midair to land nimbly on his feet, glaring with red eyes, and meets the eyes of his opponent. It's Naruto. He's breathing hard, Sakura right behind him, she must have woken him up. And he's glaring. Bastard, he says. What the hell was that for? You were gonna kill him. Of course he was, Sasuke almost says. He deserves it. He did, and Sasuke should end him and the world would be better and. But he stops. Looks at the way fear flickers through Naruto's eyes, though a different fear than the terror Sakura holds. Looks at the Genin, barely breathing at the ground. Looks at the way that the conscious members of Team 8 stand ready to battle, a few feet behind them, and even the AIM Genin seem ready to pounce to save the one that Sasuke had been hurting. He had been ready to kill that Genin. Kill him because of power. Why? Why did you do this? To test the limits of my ability. Sasuke turns around and throws up in the nearest bush. He sinks to his knees, trembling, hugging himself tightly, and he's so relieved to feel that power, that terrifying, dark power leave him. The flames on his arm are gone. Chakra no longer swirls around him. He's nothing but Sasuke. Just Sasuke. Naruto wraps his arms around him, and Sasuke sinks into him, shaking. He's warm. Things go on in the background. Talking. Discussions. Sasuke tunes it all out. He can't focus on it, can't think, can't really do anything. At one point, Naruto switches spots with Sakura, and she sits next to him, arm wrapped around him. She's not as warm as Naruto. All he can do is stare at his feet, head between his legs, and try to breathe. Someone is saying his name, but he doesn't respond. He doesn't acknowledge it, until there's a rough shove to his side and he almost topples over, barely catching himself. Oi, Sasuke, the voice says, and Sasuke realizes it's Naruto. He blinks up at him, meeting worried blue eyes. Come on. We're leaving. He accepts the hand that helps him to his feet, staggering into his teammate, and he finally, takes stock of the entire clearing. All three of the Sound Genin are tied up, but they're apparently not being left behind. The Aim Genin both have one they're carrying, and Shino has the other. Kiba is up, but woozy looking, leaning on Hinata, while Sakura carries Akamaru in her non-broken arm. Oburo's corpse is nowhere to be found, and Sasuke thinks someone must have sealed it away, for there's no upturned earth that he can see. And Naruto is standing behind him, right there for Sasuke to lean on. All right, he whispers hoarsely, and sees a little bit of tension fade from the other's shoulders. They're slow going. With two members of the group leaning on others, three passengers, and Sakura being Sakura, though maybe that's uncharitable, given how hurt she is, they make slow going. It's okay. Sasuke doesn't mind it. The others talk quietly among themselves, but Naruto is quiet, for once, and no one speaks to Sasuke. It's alright. He's okay with that. He doesn't want to talk. It's not until they reach the tower, though, limping through the darkness and the night, for there is no reason to stop, not now, that Sasuke comes to a realization. Naruto, he asks, voice rasping from lack of water, and his teammate snaps to attention. Did anyone grab the Sound Genin's scroll? There's a silence, and the Uchiha tries not to curse. They need that scroll, they need to keep going, but none of them, except maybe Naruto, is in any state to keep going. You can have ours, says one of the Aim Genin, and Team 7's eyes snap to him. Sakura protests. No. We couldn't take your scroll. The second one shakes his head. You have to have all three team members, to finish the second exam. We don't. His voice cracks at that, even as he reaches in his pouch, pulling out his scroll and offering it to Sakura. You did your best, with Oburo. Take it. She does. They're some of the first teams back, but Sasuke can't bring himself to care. Iruka is stunned by the state of their team, and there is a lot of yelling, lots of strong words, lots of things that Sasuke just tunes out. He pays attention when Kakashi shows up, though, because Kakashi tries to take him from his teammates. Sasuke, he says, with patience that the Genin has never heard from his teacher in his life, we need to deal with that seal. The boy shakes his head, stubborn as can be. Then they come with me. They can watch. He's not letting them out of his sight. For quite a few reasons, but he doesn't want to think of them, because they whirl and twist and blend in his head until he can't focus. He can barely focus at all, right now. Kakashi sighs and caves, and the two watch as Kakashi draws painstaking patterns over the Uchiha's body. You have to want it to stay sealed away, his teacher says, and Sasuke nods. He wants it to stay tucked away. Very, very much so. For the next 3 days, all he does is sleep. That medic, Kabuto, shows up at one point, and offers to heal everyone who needs it, all the Konoha ninja that need it, that is, and Sasuke decides he must not be so bad. Sakura definitely needs the healing. At least one of his teammates is by his side at all times, and Sasuke can't find himself mad about it. He likes having them close. Likes waking up with a sudden jolt and seeing them right there, breathing and alive and decidedly unmurdered by Itachi or Orochimaru or even himself. Sakura must tell Naruto everything, because he doesn't bother Sasuke with questions, and the Uchiha is extremely grateful for that. He doesn't think he could answer them right now, and it's not like he exactly has a lot of answers. Naruto just stays close, and Sakura just stays close, and even Kakashi occasionally peeks his head in, pretending he was just swinging by even though there's no reason for him to be in the tower aside from visiting his team. The night before the second part of the exam ends, Naruto sits next to him on the bed, their shoulders brushing. Are you ready for tomorrow? He asks with a grin, like nothing has happened, and Sasuke. Sasuke finally relaxes. He smirks. More than you, idiot. The ensuing squabble is a balm to all of his worries. Chapter 15, Preliminaries, Part 1. Sasuke pretends not to notice them hovering. He doesn't want to acknowledge it, and besides, acknowledging that his teammates are hovering will mean he has to tell them off, and he doesn't really want to tell them off. Not just his team is hovering, Team 8 is, too. He imagines Team 10 would be if they were here, but thus far, he hasn't seen them. He knows that his team has passed, as has Team 8. Kabuto's team, the other Konoha team with the Hyuga on it, and the team from Sand. The second part still has a few hours left, so it's quite possible that more teams will show up, but it's unlikely there will be very many. Naruto, Hinata speaks up. Aye. Can I? Sitting on his bed, Sasuke eyes the byplay, watching as Hinata shoves an ointment at Naruto. It makes something twist in his chest. He doesn't like it. Naruto, though, grins big and wide. Wow, Hinata. Did you make this yourself? She nods, and his grin grows even bigger. That's so cool. Hey, when the test's over, can you show me how, too? She looks like she's going to faint. Sasuke hopes she does. If why you want to. Great. Sasuke doesn't like this, and he glares down at his lap. Sakura giggles next to him, and he glances at her. What, you don't think it's cute, Sasuke? She asks. She's liked him for ever. I'm really happy for her. There's something in her smile that seems to be a bit false, but he doesn't know what. He doesn't say anything, can't say anything, and Sakura's smile fades, melting into a contemplative look. Do you? She looks like something's stuck in the back of her throat. Are you? Sakura grimaces. Never mind. Weird. Sasuke stands up, stretching, and starts to gather together his supplies. We should eat and head to the meeting room, he says. Naruto glances over to listen. We want to be there early to scope it out. I wonder if they'll have ramen, the blonde yells, his natural volume. Sakura rolls her eyes, standing up as well. Idiot. They haven't had it so far. She gives Hinata a warm smile. Hinata, want to come with? I think your team's already down there, anyway. She flushes. Sure, Sakura. Even though Sakura and Naruto are more than ready to socialize with Team 8 and Kabuto, who are at the small eatery set aside for the rather fast test takers, and when did Naruto start calling Kabuto and II, Sasuke doesn't want to talk. He really doesn't ever want to talk. Instead, he sits sandwiched between his two teammates, munching on a mixed bowl of rice, eggs, and natto. He's not sure when he's going to get to eat again today, so something hearty is probably better, and sipping at a small cup of tea. Not everyone respects his desire to not speak, though. Hey, Sasuke, Kabuto says, and the Uchiha glances up at him. Are you feeling alright? You've been sleeping almost the whole exam. His breakfast sticks in his throat, and he's only barely able to swallow it down with a drink of water, glaring at him. Even the rational thought of, he's a medic, doesn't dissuade the anger that swells up at that. Yes, Sasuke says, very firmly. I'm fine. Team 7 and Team 8 share uneasy glances, but they're smart enough to not share details with someone who is an outsider. Konoha Genin or not, Kabuto wasn't there, and he isn't one of the rookies. To be honest, Sasuke is very grateful it was another rookie team that showed up. He needs to talk to the AIM Genin as it is. Shoveling down his last mouthful of breakfast, Sasuke stands up abruptly, taking his tray of dishes with him. Sakura. Naruto, he says. Let's go. Naruto groans, looking about to protest, but Sakura kicks him under the table. He huffs at her and she gives him a winning smile, and like that, the two other members of his team get up to follow Sasuke. When they reach the open room where they're supposed to meet, it looks like one of the rooms they arrived in the tower, just bigger. Two teams are already there. The team with the Hyuga, and Team Oboro. Oh, God, hide me, says Sakura, and she immediately ducks behind Sasuke. Naruto snickers. Sasuke has no clue what his life has turned into. Against his better instincts, he asks. Hide you from who? Naruto snickers again. Bushy brows has a Kuruyuyash on her. He chants, sing song. Sakura takes a swing at him, but he easily dodges, since she doesn't want to move from the safety of Sasuke's back. Sasuke doesn't know any of the other team, he hasn't met them, but it's really easy to see which one is bushy brows. The one in the green jumpsuit very loudly proclaiming how excited he was for the next exam, and how everyone was extraordinarily youthful and Sasuke very wisely opts for heading up the stairs to talk to Team Oboro. The duo is still in their jumpsuits. It isn't like anyone else had brought other clothes for the second exam, but they've ditched their masks and head wraps. Mubi, that's the name of the one with one eye, glances up at their approach. He has a brown buzz cut, Sasuke can see now, and his right eye is completely opaque, the skin around it covered in burn scars, it looks almost melted. Kagari, on his other side, has the bushy brown hair that Sasuke had briefly noted earlier, and he looks over at them just a beat behind Mubi. Both of his eyes are the exact same as his teammates' right, and he is, thus, completely blind. It's kind of interesting, in a strange way. Sasuke hasn't ever seen any other ninjas with one or no eyes, barring Kakashi-sensei, and there's two at once. He sort of wonders what their story is, but he's not rude enough to ask. "Hey," Sasuke says, coming to a halt before them. "Why are you guys still here?" Well, apparently he's that rude. Thankfully, they don't appear to take offense. "We're the only team that failed that made it to the tower," Kagari says. "Since we made it here, figured we might as well watch, if there's anything cool that happens today. They said we could." Sakura smiles at them, and steps back Sasuke so she can stand next to them, nudging Mubi's shoulder. "Good. I was hoping to see you guys before you left. I wanted to ask." She glances over at Naruto, clearly a little hesitant, and the dumb blonde is more than willing to step up, bouncing over to them. "Do you guys wanna be friends? And pen pals and stuff? I'm not super good at writing, but Sakura said she'd help me." Yeah, that wasn't something Sasuke was privy to. Or wanted to be part of. Or really anything like that. There had clearly been some bonding while he was out that he didn't really want to be part of. The AIM Genin look a little startled at that, too, and Sasuke is kind enough to save them. "You know Konoha and AIM aren't really friends, right, losers," he drawls, even though Sakura looks a little hurt at being lumped together with Naruto. "We're not stupid, Sasuke," she huffs, "and oh, maybe it's a little more than that. But it shouldn't matter what villages we're from. Oboro died trying to help us escape, and if we all want to be friends, we should be able to." He glances away. "HN." Naruto snickers, nudging Mubi. That just means he's wrong but doesn't want to admit it. No, he is definitely not blushing, that's not a blush. Mubi laughs softly. "All right. I'm willing to write, though I can't promise how much I'll get to say. Village secrets and all that." Kag. Sasuke forces himself to look at the conversation, and Kagari grimaces, but shrugs. "Fine, I guess. We'll probably have to ask our sensei when we get back, since he's not here." Naruto nods. Yeah. We'll ask Kakashi-sensei, whenever he gets here. He's always late." "Ma, what was that, Naruto?" Slowly, anticipating their doom, the Genin slowly turn around. Right there, perched on the railing, is Kakashi, and his smile fills them with dread. "Sensei, do you just wait for us to say something like that?" Sakura has to ask, staring at him. He just smiles, offering up no answer to that. "What did you want to ask me, Naruto?" Quickly, Naruto and Sakura talk over each other, explaining their desire for penpalship and friendship and all that. They don't bother to explain Oboro. Sasuke's certain they've told Kakashi already. He nods slowly, listening to what they have to say, and then smiles again. "Sounds fine to me. You'll have to run the letters through security, first, make sure there's nothing classified you're sharing." He leans over and ruffles their hair, ignoring their squawks. "I'm so proud of you two for fostering inter-community friendship." He glances at Sasuke. "Are you participating, my cute little Uchiha?" Resisting the urge to shudder at that title, why was he so weird, Sasuke eyes his teacher's hands with trepidation. "No." Kakashi pouts. And then disappears in a quick swirl of smoke to stand behind the AIM Genin, where he ruffles their hair. He smiles. I'm sure you two will be such good friends to my genin. There's an almost threatening undertone to that, and the two nod very rapidly. Good. Now, everyone should be getting here soon, so good luck. Before he disappears, he ruffles Sasuke's hair, too, and the Uchiha scowls. I hate him. His teammates grumble in agreement, but the AIM genin seems stunned. You didn't tell us your teacher was Hatake Kakashi, Mubi says, staring at Sasuke. He shrugs, and can't resist a smirk. You didn't ask. Sakura and Naruto are more than willing to happily chat with the AIM genin, and Sasuke lets them. He considers talking to them about, not telling anyone about the whole freaking out and nearly killing someone thing, but the conversation has reminded him, they're from a Megakure. They would probably have to, if they deem it relevant, tell their superiors. He hopes they don't deem it relevant. While his teammates talk, probably telling them about themselves, given Sasuke has overheard the word Hokage like 5 times, Sasuke focuses on watching the floor below. Team 8 showed up a half hour ago, and is currently mingling with the other Hyuga team. Well, almost. Hinata is very clearly avoiding the other Hyuga. Interesting. The team from Sand has shown up, but they interact with no one, standing in the corner but not talking to each other, either. Kabuto's team is walking in right now, and the teachers are starting to gather near the front. We should head down, Sasuke says, and the conversation beside him stops. It looks like everyone's almost here. He looks over at the 4, and Sakura and Naruto are serious. Sobered up. It's time for the third part of the exam. See you later, Mubi, Kaguri. Naruto tells them, giving them a smile, and Sakura echoes him. They both smile back. We'll cheer you on, Mubi tells them, and with that, Team 7 heads down to the floor. Just in time, it seems like. Team 8's sensei, a woman who he doesn't know the name of, directs them all to line up in an orderly fashion, and they do so. From the corner of his eye, Sasuke can see Team 10 join them, ushered in from behind, as well as a team from Ishigakure. Maybe, he doesn't get a good look because the Hokage appears with a small puff of smoke in front of them. After a few moments, though, Sasuke tunes out the Hokage. As disrespectful as that is, he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care if this is what they do in place of war, or if clients are coming to see them and thus they must show off, or whatever exactly is the meandering man's point. He's here to test himself. See how strong he is. See how strong he is with his own power, not with the brand seared into his neck. What does catch his attention, though, is the fact that they're going to have to fight preliminaries right now. It makes sense. There's too many for a proper showcasing, it would take too long, and some of them are rather weak. He resists glancing over at Team 10, because he's still kind of stunned they actually made it here. Those 3 are the ones that complain, of course, but it's their fault they didn't make it to the tower until this point. Team 7, Team 8, the Sand team, Kabuto's team, and Hyuga's team had all made it here before the end, and managed to get some rest and healing. If they wanted to be on an even playing ground, they should have gotten here faster. Idiots. Kabuto gives up, but no one else does. Sakura eyes him worriedly, but says nothing, and even though the girl from the Kusagakure team, not Ishigakure, looks like she got really messed up, she doesn't quit, either. They've come this far. Who, really, would give up now? The screen flickers, spiraling through the 20 names remaining in the exam, and slowly, surely, comes to a halt. Sasuke smirks. Uchiha Sasuke vs. Akadu Yoroi is displayed prominently. Good. He'd rather go first. Naruto gives his shoulder a friendly punch, and Sakura gives him a nervous smile. Good luck, Sasuke, she says, as everyone else starts to clear out, leaving just Sasuke and the older genin. He doesn't respond. He doesn't need luck. To be honest, when someone has stayed a genin for a decade, Sasuke isn't too surprised it's easy enough to beat him. Sure, that chakra-sucking technique was a bit of a surprise, but it wasn't anything he couldn't handle. Sakura and Naruto are hanging out over by Kaguri and Mubi, and he joins them. That was pretty lame, Sasuke, Naruto says, grinning. He shrugs. HN. Not my fault, he was a pathetic excuse for a genin. Shino gets called to battle with the sand puppeteer, Kankura. Now he knows his name, if that becomes relevant, and Sasuke keeps an eye on it even while they speak. Still, you did win, so congratulations, Mubi says, and the Uchiha inclines his head. Kagari is also focusing on the battle below, which is, mostly just Shino and Kankura standing there, for now, and he frowns. That Abarame kid's chakra is interesting. Okay, Sasuke feels like he's earned the right to be rude. He won his battle. He gets to be. How do you know that, he asks. The other genin doesn't look at him, but his frown tightens up a bit. Isn't that kind of rude? I don't care, he says, and Kagari finally turns, narrowing his eyes in his direction. I'm a chakra sensor, he spits at him, and oh, that makes sense. But now the tension is, it's awkward, and Sasuke looks away, focusing on the battle below. It's almost a relief when Shino randomly strikes out at the puppet, and it turns out that the puppet was Kankura, and Kankura was the puppet, and... well, Shino handily wins that one, no problem. His bugs probably helped him sense that. A bad opponent to go up against, given the entire match is over within like 5 minutes. I take it back, Sasuke, Naruto says, coming up between him and Kagari and wrinkling his nose. That was a really lame match. At least the guy you fought did something. Sasuke relaxes, just slightly, and nods. HN. Shino did well. Sakura comes up on his right, smiling a little. Yeah. Team 8's pretty good, so I'm not surprised, she trails off, and Sasuke distinctly remembers that he doesn't know what happened before he woke up, that day a few days ago. Team 8 had clearly fought well. But he doesn't really want to ask about it. Expectantly, all but Kagari glance up at the screen, waiting for the next matchup. Sasuke is curious, and isn't sure what to expect, but unless his two teammates are fighting each other, he can't imagine there's anything that will really surprise or alarm him. It's just the preliminaries. He'll never get used to be wrong about these fucking exams. Sasuke and Sakura can't tear their eyes away from the screen. Naruto grips the railing, white-knuckled, and Sasuke doesn't even think he's breathing as he desperately glances around the room, trying so very hard to find the person in question. The proctor coughs. Will Rock Lee and Uzumaki Karen come down? Check the description for the links to the author.